The Mets losing streak is finally over. If they can find a way to win on Sunday night, it'll be forgotten.
You are Locked On Mets, your daily New York Mets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all you amazing Mets fans. You're watching Locked On Mets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Ryan Finkelstein. I've been covering the New York Mets on this show since the 2019 season. This is the only podcast that covers the Mets 7 days a week throughout the regular season. If you want to find some of my written work, you can do so over at justbaseball.com, where I work as the managing editor. Boy, does it feel good to watch the Mets win a game again. What an awesome Saturday night as the Mets just go out there and destroy the Philadelphia Phillies. Hit 7 home runs. Such an incredible offensive onslaught. So fun to watch. And now, collectively, this fan base could take a deep breath again. You want to do it all with me, right, guys? How about that? How about that? I talked about it on yesterday's show. I made a bold prediction. The New York Mets were going to win this series. And the reason why I felt that way is because I believe that David Peterson's going to get the job done in a rubber match on Sunday night. And I felt like this lineup would find their way against Mick Abel. And I thought Griffin Canning would be solid enough. All of that really did come together. The first inning, Brandon Nimmo hit a home run to deep right center field to get the Mets on the board. Unfortunately, we did not know at that point that the Mets' luck had turned because Juan, Soto, and Pete Alonso each got hits. They advanced on a wild pitch. So you got runners in scoring position, and the Mets did nothing with it. Jeff McNeil, Jared Young both get out, strand those 2 runners. So the Mets only score 1 in the first, and that lead was short-lived. Bottom of the first inning, Griffin Canning gives up 3 straight hits, a pair of singles, and a double by Nick Castellanos, which scores 1 run. Another comes in on a ground out, and so 2 runs come across for the Phillies in the first. Another comes across for them in the second. The Mets did not score anything in the top of the second inning. Bob in the lineup goes down in order. Phillies are able to tack on another run as Otto Kemp doubles, advances to third on the ground out, and scores on a wild pitch. So go through 2 innings. The Mets were trailing 3-1, but then they were able to have an amazing third inning, and they did not look back from there. Back-to-back home runs by Francisco Lindor, Brandon Nimmo, and Juan Soto. And when it comes to Nimmo and Lindor, there's a little bit of Mets history that was going on. When Brandon Nimmo hit his home run in the first inning, he tied Francisco Lindor for being in 10th place all-time in Mets history, and it was Lindor, Nimmo, and Todd Hundley. When Lindor homered to lead off the third inning, he passed Hundley and Nimmo. Then Nimmo immediately ties him back up. So that was a cool little moment there, as you now have Brandon Nimmo, Francisco Lindor, and Lucas Duda all at 125 career home runs, tied for 9th on the Mets all-time list. Poor Duda is going to get squeezed out of the top 10 any day now. And at some point, Michael Conforto is going to get pushed from the top 10. Not anytime soon. I don't believe we're going to see another Met get quite towards that 132 home run mark from Conforto anytime soon. Soto will get there eventually. Not sure if anybody else is close. I can't think anybody else would be. I mean, Jeff McNeil, I don't think he'd be anywhere near it. But you're going to see at some point soon Nimmo and Lindor passing Conforto. That'll probably be it for this season. Carlos Beltran will be up next, but I don't think these guys are going to hit 25 more home runs this season. Beltran has 7th most in franchise history at 149, but it's pretty crazy to think that this season Pete Alonso is going to pass Darryl Strawberry. There is every chance that all 3 of those guys pass Darryl Strawberry because you have Lindor and Nimmo locked up for years now. If these guys are averaging 25 to 30 home runs a season, they'll get there eventually. So pretty cool stuff when it comes to Mets history. It was also the 15th home run this season by Lindor and Nimmo, both in that inning. And Soto hit his 15th of the season. So 3 guys going back to back to back, all of them hitting their 15th home run of the season. Not sure if that has happened before. If they talked about it on the broadcast, I don't listen to Fox. So, I had the game on mute. So sorry if that's a little piece of history I missed. by not listening to the broadcast. And all of those home runs came against Mick Abel. I talked about him on yesterday's show. Phillies rookie who had way too good of an ERA at 2.12. The one team who had gotten to him this year was the Cubs. They hit 3 home runs in 4 innings. I said the Mets might do a little bit better, and they did. 4 home runs in 3 innings. Then Abel was out of the game. Joe Ross came in, kept the Mets at bay in the 4th inning. Canning worked around a couple of walks in the 3rd inning to put up a 0. Then he struck out the side in the 4th. So a couple good innings there for Canning. Top of the 5th, Francisco Lindor and Brandon Nimmo each get out. Juan Soto has another great at-bat, gets into a 3-1 count, fouls a couple of pitches off, and then hammers a home run. Both of his home runs came with exit velocities of 110 miles per hour. The first one did, the second one 109.5. But we'll round that one up, especially because that ball went into the second deck in right field, 437 feet. Just a towering shot by Soto for his 16th of the year. And now you check the OPS on June 22nd. OPS is up to 877. Now you look at that number. What's pretty amazing about it, Soto has not had the best year, but he's had an amazing month of June. That 877 OPS would be the Mets' best mark in a season since 2019, when you had Pete Alonso, Jeff McNeil, and J.D. Davis actually all top that mark. Alonso a 941 OPS in 2019, McNeil 916, J.D. Davis 895. But it's pretty crazy that Juan Soto, who was bad technically for the first few months of the season, one great month, already about as good as anything we've seen in the past 6 years. So, or better than anything we've seen in the past 5. Brandon Nimmo, by the way, had an 886 OPS in 2018. So before COVID, 2019, 2018, the Mets had a couple hitters that were able to get to that level. But from 2021 on in the Steve Cohen era, no one has touched an 877 OPS. Even last year, when Francisco Lindor was runner-up in the MVP race, hit an 844 OPS. So that just shows you Juan Soto's incredible offensive prowess. Bottom of the 5th inning, you had Brandon Nimmo and Jeff McNeil get caught up on a fly ball where it was McNeil's ball. He was calling it, but maybe called it a little bit late. Nimmo trying to get there, knowing he doesn't have Tyrone Taylor in center, and he just flashes in front of McNeil, and McNeil drops it. I believe that was the first error we've seen from McNeil in center field. That put Trey Turner on second base. He would score on a base hit by Alec Boehm, but Canning was able to get through the 5th without giving up another run there. And obviously that one run was unearned for Canning. So he goes through 5, gives up 3 earned runs. 6th inning, Francisco Alvarez and Ronnie Mauricio each got base hits. Lindor got turned around to hit from the right side, and he hit one down the right field line, went opposite field. Nick Castellanos didn't know where that ball was going. It ends up hitting off the top of the wall, just fair to score 2 more Mets, 7-4. After that one, where I finally was able to really breathe and think, okay, maybe the Mets really are going to snap this losing streak. They would tack on another run in the 8th inning when Jared Young hit his 3rd home run of the season. Then 2 more in that inning after that as Juan Soto came up with the bases loaded and got a base hit, driving in Brett Beatty, who walked, and Tyrone Taylor, who got a hit as well. Brandon Nimmo was able to draw a 2-out walk to get Soto to the plate. So look at this Mets offense on this day. Huge game for Soto, 4 for 5, 4 RBIs. These are the performances that you dreamed about when the Mets were able to sign Juan Soto. This is exactly the type of performance where he is able to really elevate this team and make it a complete blowout. Lindor, big game as well. When Lindor goes, the Mets go with him. 2 for 5 with 3 RBIs. Brandon Nimmo, 2 for 4 with the 2 home runs and a walk. Pete Alonso didn't do anything that affected the Mets on the scoreboard, but didn't have a bad day at the plate. 2 for 4 with a walk. So the top 4 in the Mets lineup went 10 for 18 with 2 walks, 5 home runs, and they drove in 9 of the Mets' 11 runs. That's going to play. Now you look at this series, it's all tied up. So the crazy part about this, the New York Mets looked as bad as they have all year. Dismal state for the fan base, 7 losses in a row, back-to-back sweeps, one of them coming at the hands of the Braves. Lose the first game against the Phillies in blowout fashion. Rough stretch for this Mets team. And now they have an opportunity on Sunday to win a game and flush all of it. Because if they win on Sunday, they're back in first place in the National League East, standing by themselves. And then they get to come home. So can the Mets get the job done? Will my prediction that they were going to win this series come true? Is it going to be a big game from David Peterson that gets them there? I want to talk about all of that in just a minute. Today's episode is brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. So you're looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Well, crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios, which is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help you feel fuller, longer. I love the smoky barbecue flavor, and this is one of the no shells variety. This is the perfect grab-and-go snack, whether I'm at my desk, if I'm going on the road, if I'm hitting the golf course. I always love to bring my Wonderful Pistachios with me. Haven't tried a flavor that I haven't liked yet. All of them have been great, whether it's the honey roasted, the sea salt and vinegar, the sea salt and black pepper. They're all great. And if you love cracking open every shell for the satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite as well. Get snacking and get cracking with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. If you're watching on YouTube today, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, help us get closer to our next goal of 14,000 subscribers. We are getting closer and closer to that goal. I really appreciate all of you help us get there. Now, before we talk about David Peterson, I just want to spend a little more time on Griffin Canning, because while Canning was definitely solid in this start, got through 5 innings, if not for the error by Jeff McNeil, that's 1 run that wouldn't have been on the board. Obviously, it was unearned anyway, but there was also the cross-up. It was either a cross-up, maybe it was a lazy block by Alvarez, whatever it was ruled a wild pitch. But that was another instance where a run probably didn't need to come across. That was a run the Mets could have prevented from scoring. So you can look at it and say, Griffin Canning went up against a good Phillies lineup, got through 5 innings, and probably should have only given up 2 runs. With that said, I still don't trust Griffin Canning's stuff in the zone. Doesn't mean he's a bad pitcher. Doesn't mean he's not a perfectly suitable number 5 starter. And I'll tell you what, a number 5 starter who will pitch to a sub 4.5 ERA is making $4 million this season. That's a bargain. Okay. So this is not a knock on Griffin Canning. Griffin Canning has been a godsend to this rotation this year, especially right now. I mean, Canning to me looks a heck of a lot better than Paul Blackburn. I got more confidence in him right now until we've seen Frankie Montas, and we'll see what that looks like this week. But to me, when I look at Griffin Canning and I watch his starts, I just, in this game, going up against that Phillies lineup in that ballpark, I was on the edge of my seat the entire time. I don't think he has good enough stuff where you trust it in the zone. That isn't a bad thing, because he can pitch outside the zone. He can get swing and miss that way. He can still get some soft contact by getting some of that chase, and he can just rely on his pitchability and the fact that he's just a guy that fields his position well, holds runners well, does all the little things as a starting pitcher that can make it work as your 5th starter. But having his stuff play in the zone, it's just not something that I think he has the ability to do. I don't think that his stuff is really up to that level. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is I think there was a point this season where, while Canning was amazing, you could have said he's the only guy in the rotation where you don't trust their stuff in the zone. What do I mean by that? Well, Kodai Senga, you trust his stuff in the zone. David Peterson, you trust his stuff in the zone. Clay Holmes has really good stuff. He's still working on all the components of being a starting pitcher, and we'll see how long he can stay in this rotation, because it is a massive spike in workload. But he has good stuff. You can trust his stuff in the zone. And I think the same thing with Tyler McGill. His issue is not being in the zone enough. His issue is walking batters, putting himself in bad counts, and then getting to the point where he becomes too predictable and hitters can start to key in on his fastball. But you look at when McGill's on, you can trust his stuff in the zone. He has really good stuff. So it's just a note about where this rotation is right now, where losing Senga and McGill really was a big hit. And the hope is you get Montas pitching well, which is a huge question mark. And I feel pretty confident when Sean Manaea comes back that he also can be one of those pitchers that can attack the zone with confidence. And once you get to that point, well, now Canning is right back in that comfortable 5 spot in the rotation, and everything's cool. And then you get Senga back. Who knows? You might even push Canning outside the rotation into some type of a swingman role. Who knows if the Mets will ever get that healthy and if everybody will be pitching well enough for that to be the case. I think more likely than not, he probably is in the rotation all year because there's always going to be something going on, or the Mets might just roll with a 6-man rotation in the second half. But I just wanted to note that when Canning was on the mound, I wasn't comfortable. I was very happy when Carlos Mendoza went to Huascar Brazoban after Canning gave up a leadoff hit in the 6th inning at 94 pitches. Went to Brazoban. Brazoban was able to get through those critical innings that the Mets were adding to their lead. He gets 6 big outs. Was able to strand that inherited runner in the 6th and the 7th inning. 1, 2, 3 inning thanks to a double play ball. So really good work from Brazoban. Stanek worked around a single in the 8th. Chris Stefanski finished things off in the 9th inning. So good game by the Mets overall. Not a poorly pitched game by any stretch of the imagination, but I did want to make a little note on Canning. And now as you bring the focus to Sunday, this is why David Peterson stands out so much in this rotation right now, because he is clearly this team's ace. And this is a moment to prove it, to go out there against Jesus Luzardo and get the job done in a hostile environment and win a series. And I feel very confident that he can do that. You look at where the bullpen's at right now. Chris Stefanski and Tyler Zuber both came up. We were sort of foreshadowing that on yesterday's show. Blade Tidwell and Justin Garza did both go down. I misspoke a little bit on yesterday's show when I talked about Zuber. I said he hasn't been throwing the ball well this year. Overall, that is true. A 6.08 ERA in AAA. But since the calendar shifted to June, he's actually been very good. Allowed just 4 hits in 6 2/3 innings pitched, struck out 8, only walked 3, and has not allowed a run. So Zuber is actually pitching well. This is a guy that has a great sweeper. That is the calling card. We'll see what it looks like if he gets into a game here on Sunday or some point next week. You also have Daniel Nunez, who has yet to pitch since being called up. I would be very on edge with either of those guys in a close game, but the Mets might be put in that situation if Brazoban's not available. I don't know where Garrett's at or has Jose Buda. They both got a day off, so you'd think they're good to go, but we'll see. Jose Castillo also got a day off. Devansky and Stanek each threw only 13 pitches, so theoretically, you might have every arm available in that bullpen, but the way I would like to see this game played out, I want to see David Peterson pitch deep into the game, as has become something that we can generally expect, and I want the Mets to be very aggressive, or should I say, I want Carlos Mendoza to be very aggressive getting to Edwin Diaz in this game. If you burn Diaz for Monday, you burn Diaz for Monday. Edwin Diaz has not pitched since Tuesday. 4 days rest for Edwin Diaz. Just hasn't been able to get into the game based on all the different circumstances. Edwin Diaz, if you are winning 3-1 and Peterson got you through 7, if his pitch count's low, you might be in the exact same situation you were in on Tuesday. And if he's at 80 pitches, I'm not going to knock Mendoza for throwing him back out there for the 8th inning. But if he gives anything up, Edwin Diaz should be the guy that comes into the game, not Reed Garrett. The Mets need to win this game. And if they're in position to do so, and it comes to the 8th inning and it's close, to me, this is the time for Edwin Diaz to get a 6-out save. So we'll see what happens. We'll see how the game plays out. But when it comes to the pitching side of things, that's where the Mets are at. Now, on the other side, Jesus Luzardo is going for the Phillies, who's been very down lately. I was going to say up and down this year, but really it was just nothing but ups. He had a 2.15 ERA through his first, 9 starts, I believe. Since then, his last 4 starts, he's given up 25 earned runs. Now, 12 of them came against the Brewers. 8 of them were in his next start. I think it was against the Blue Jays. He had one good start and then another kind of decent one where he gave up 4 runs. But Luzardo has really fallen back to earth. He was a legit Cy Young candidate early in the season, and where he gave up, it was actually 16 earned runs over his first 11 starts. So he's 15 starts into the season now. Again, so 16 earned runs, first 11 starts, 25 earned runs, last 4 starts. So this is a guy the Mets can get to. And you look at some of the career numbers against Luzardo, who obviously spent a good portion of his career in Miami with the Marlins, so the Mets saw him a little bit. Pete Alonso, he's had some bad numbers. Jesus Luzardo has his number. 10 strikeouts and 22 at-bats. So that's pretty brutal. 2 hits, one of them being a home run. Lindor, 4 for 18 lifetime against Luzardo, all singles. Nimmo, 3 for 12 with a homer. Jeff McNeil, 5 for 12. So pretty good numbers there. Starling Marte, 4 for 11. Juan Soto, 5 for 14 with a homer. Luis Torrens has gone deep against Luzardo as well. It's only gotten 4 at-bats. It's gone 2 for 4, although I still think Francisco Alvarez will probably be in there. If you look at the splits this year, Jesus Luzardo is way more hittable for righties than lefties. Lefties are hitting 187 against him, righties 306. So I bet the Mets try to stack some righties. You know, Marte is going to be in there. I imagine the first 6 of the lineup is probably going to be Lindor. We'll say first 5. Lindor, Marte at DH, Soto, Alonso, Nimmo. Now, beyond that, I would think Tyrone Taylor is going to start in center. I would think Francisco Alvarez is going to start behind the dish. That's your first 7 batters potentially. When it comes to the final 2, I could see Jeff McNeil getting a start, breaking up a bunch of the right-handers. So maybe it is, Jeff McNeil that slides in between Taylor and Alvarez. We'll see. If the Mets want to stack righties, they could put Mauricio at third and Acuna at second. I would still prefer McNeil gets in there, honestly, at second base. At third base, you could go with Ronnie Mauricio, and he is a switch hitter, but he hasn't been swinging it well from the right side. I would almost play Acuna at third base and just see what happens there. I think that's the way I would likely go about it. Or if you want to just put best defense out there, you don't worry about the left-right thing, maybe you do start Beatty and McNeil. But considering the numbers against left-handers, I would get Acuna in the lineup, and I wouldn't mind seeing him get a start at third base with McNeil starting the game at second, just because McNeil has the good lifetime numbers against Luzardo, and I just think that's probably your best all-around lineup where you mix some defense with some offense, and that's how I hope the Mets are able to put it all together, win this game, because if they do again, you go from the lowest low of the season. A 2-4 road trip looks completely different because, yes, bad road trip overall, but when you win the final 2 games and you beat the Phillies in the series, that's as good as you can expect with the circumstances that were in front of the Mets. If you told me at the beginning of the week they would go 2-4 on the road, I'd be like, I guess they, got beaten in both series is probably how I would have thought that it played out. But for the Mets to get swept by the Braves, who honestly we're just getting some wins back because they should not have started the season as poorly as they have, that doesn't matter that much. It really doesn't. The grand scheme of things, if you go home and you beat up on the Braves at Citi Field, who cares? But keeping that mental edge over the Phillies, if you're able to go from sweeping them early in the season, Phillies grab first place back, the Mets are playing bad baseball, Phillies are feeling great, and then you take it to them on Saturday night the way the Mets just did, and then you're able to pull it out on Sunday and grab first place right back, I think that would be a pretty impressive showing by this New York Mets team. It would show their resilience. So I'm hoping that's what we get to see Sunday Night Baseball, and I'll be covering all that on tomorrow's show. But we still got one more segment. I want to talk some prospects to close out the show. Should Jonah, Tong, and Jett Williams both be in AAA? We're going to go through that in just a minute. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Tonight, Game 7 of the NBA Finals. Every night so far has delivered highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. And it all comes down to tonight. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and to win big. You can look at the Mets game tonight, Sunday Night Baseball. Maybe you feel like Pete Alonso is due for a home run. Throw that into a same-game parlay with the Mets winning the game. Both those things happen. You can win big. And if you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. You head to FanDuel.com, place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you're going to get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. If you're an everydayer that's always tuning into the show, make sure you become a Locked On Mets insider. It's our texting service where you get updates from me anytime news breaks in the Mets. You can ask me questions anytime. Take part in our Locked On Mets sign photo giveaways. Get a line graphic sent to your phone each day so you know the starting lineup without ever having to go on social media. If you want to be a Locked On Mets insider, find the link in the episode description. Go to subtext.com/LockedOnMets. Well, I got the Binghamton Rumble Ponies hat on now for our farm report here. And Jonah Tong was brilliant once again. On Saturday, he went 7 2/3, allowed 2 hits, just 1 walk, struck out 11, got 23 outs on 97 pitches. Tong has been unbelievable this year. 13 starts, he's working on a 1.75 ERA, 107 strikeouts in 67 innings pitched, 13 earned runs on the year, and 7 of them came in his first 3 starts. So you look at what he's done over his last 10 starts, it's 6 earned runs in 53 2/3 innings pitched. That's a 1.01 ERA. He's got 87 strikeouts during that span compared to 20 walks. He issued 10 walks in his first 3 starts, 20 walks in the 10 starts since. That is a strikeout to walk rate of over 4-1. There's nothing left for Jonah Tong to prove at AA. Nothing. He has proven that he is better than the competition at this level. He needs to be in AAA. Now, here's the question. When does he get there? And why hasn't he gotten there yet? Because you could have made the case to promote Tong 3 starts ago. I think there's a couple things that play into this. The first one, it's just, for one, the weather at Syracuse has been brutal this year. Not that that's why they're not promoting him, but I think it's a matter of all the different guys that need to get starts in AAA right now. You already have 3 really top-end pitching prospects in AAA. Brandon Sproat, obviously going through a rough season, but still one of your top prospects. Blade Tidwell, just saw him in the big leagues. He's definitely improving, an arm that could be a big piece in the Mets' future, whether that is in the bullpen or in the rotation. And then you got Nolan McLean, who's also up in AAA. So that's 3 guys. And then over the past month, you've seen Paul Blackburn, Frankie Montas, Sean Manaea now, all passing through, getting ramped up to rejoin the Mets. You also have Brandon Waddell and Justin Hagenman, guys that are on the 40-man roster who are playing a role on the big league club, that are staying stretched out to potentially make spot starts or be bulk guys for your bullpen. So when you have that many arms already, sliding another top prospect into the fold, it's a little bit tough. A lot of times with promotions, you sort of see, all right, this guy just gets called up to the big leagues. All right, the next guy can go up to AAA. Or the guy got called up from high A to AA. Now let's call up the arm from low A to high A. So sometimes you see sort of that chain reaction. And because the Mets have so many prospects right now that are talented in the upper levels, Tong's a little bit blocked, but they can still make it work. They can have Sproat, Tidwell, McLean, and Tong all in the AAA rotation. I expect they will at some point. The other aspect about it that I think is part of the equation, it's not the whole equation, it's part of it, is preserving the trade asset. And I don't think that the Mets are looking at Jonah Tong and saying, we're going to trade him at the deadline. But this is a team that has World Series aspirations. And if you need to swing a big trade at the deadline to get the piece that's going to get you over the top, having the best possible assets available to you is a good thing. And keeping Jonah Tong, as well as Jett Williams, who we're going to talk about soon, at a level where they're thriving, it's a little bit of asset management. It doesn't mean you're going to trade those guys. It just means let these guys dominate for a little bit. Let them put up really big numbers. There's nothing wrong with that. You still have enough time this season to get them the amount of AAA exposure that they need. But the clock is starting to tick on that a little bit. If Jonah Tong isn't up by the time we get into the second half, something's wrong, because really he should be up now. And so the way I would look at it, there's now one more rehab start left for Manaea. And then there's really no one else on the horizon. Yes, Kodai Senga eventually, but maybe it's one more week for Tong in AA. When Manaea makes his final rehab start, it kind of cleared the deck a little bit. Maybe then you could put Tong in there. Maybe you let 2 more weeks pass if you want Jonah Tong to get to 15 starts in AA. I don't know why you need that arbitrary round number, but that's just another sort of thing to look for. Or maybe it's, and also I guess if he finished one more week, he would finish June and then start off July in AAA. Or again, it could be the second half. Let him finish off the first half in AA, rack up a couple more dominant outings, and then once you get to the second half, there's still plenty of time left. Last year, Jonah Tong threw 113 innings. The Mets don't do set inning counts. David Stearns has said that. It's all about monitoring how a guy is performing, how they're recovering. They really have so much information that they can tell, okay, this guy needs to be shut down. So it's more case by case basis. But typically, you might want to see a 25 inning jump, 30 inning jump. So let's just say the target is to get Tong to 140 innings this year. You have 13 weeks left in the AA season. AAA season's either a week or two beyond that. So right now, through 13 starts, you got this guy at 67 innings. So if he was just to stay there all year, he'd get right around that target number. So you still have time. The question is, if you want to get, let's just say it's 50 innings or 10 starts in AAA, that's where you got to make a move soon. And that's why I think there will be a move made soon. I'd call him up next week. Honestly, I think he's just proven everything he needs to, but I'm not going to get mad if it's a couple more weeks. It's just, if it's the second half, he's still in AAA. I think you're wasting a little bit of development time for Tong, who might struggle when he gets to AAA. I think the big question when he gets there is, are more established veteran hitters going to be able to, for one, catch up to the fastball a little bit more, but they can also, if they can eliminate that curveball hasn't always been the most competitive pitch this year, and they can just focus on fastball changeup, they might be able to get to him, and they might be able to get him into some more trouble when it comes to walks. So that's the last hurdle for him, but you wanted to eventually try to tackle it this year. So I think, again, a promotion should come soon. Jett Williams, same thing. I mean, I don't think there's much left for him to prove in AA. 60 games so far this year, hitting 296, 399 on base, 514 slug, 913 OPS. He has 20 stolen bases, 19 doubles, 5 triples, and 6 home runs. So 30 extra base hits in 60 games. And there's no dilemma over, feeding anyone else starts or playing time for Jett Williams getting the call up. There's one prospect at that level right now. It's Drew Gilbert. He's not even having a good season, 684 OPS. I would bring Jett along, put him up in that AAA lineup, start him at shortstop every day. I'd make that move sooner than later. When it comes to AAA today, I just want to mention real quick, Mark Vientos, 0 for 3 day as the DH, and they pinch hit for him. I don't know if he's hurt. Again, if something happened, we'll find out if anything is there or if they just decided to pull him from a game. Regardless, he has not hit much in his AAA stint so far. Noel McLean started today. 5 innings pitched, 2 earned runs, 3 hits, 2 walks. The 2 earned runs came on a couple of solo home runs. He struck out 6. So another good start for McLean in AAA, who continues to prove that he is the top pitching prospect in this system with his success at that level. Now, a couple more prospects to touch on before we close out the show. We'll stay in Binghamton here. Nick Morabito has turned his season around. He was hitting 231 in April. He has hit well over 300 ever since. Has his season average up to 296. He has stolen 27 bases on 32 attempts. And if you look at his numbers this year compared to his numbers in high A last year, it's actually really impressive. His OPS right now is 799. Last year in high A, his OPS was 747. He's hit more doubles by a pretty good margin, 21 in 62 games compared to 15 doubles in 95 games last year. His slug is up nearly 70 points. So these are all really encouraging signs for Nick Morabito that is going to be pushing back on a 4th outfielder, most realistic outcome when he gets to the big leagues. But if he can hit and consistently find his way to an average that's well over 280 and get on base at a pretty good clip, and if he's all of a sudden tapping into a little more power where he's never going to be even a 10 or a 15 home run guy, but if he's a guy that can hit a bunch of doubles, that's going to improve his future outlook as well. Ryan Clifford, the other top prospect in this Binghamton lineup, he's got 12 home runs in 66 games and 803 OPS. Still only 21 years old, playing in AA. He got there very early last year. But what I will say is you're not seeing any improvements from last season. His slash line is within 7 points of where it was last year with batting average, on base, and slug. It's all pretty much the same thing. 230-ish hitter, 350-ish on base, 450 slug, 800 OPS. Last year was 815. This year it's 803. It's just not a lot of improvements. So that's something to note here, because otherwise, if we were seeing some improvements, I'd be talking about him getting a call up to AAA. I'm not there right now. The last guy to close out the show, and the reason why I'm closing out the show here is to prove that I am not biased, because anyone who has listened to Locked On Mets for some time knows I am not a fan of Kevin Parada. I still don't believe in him at all, but I will acknowledge the guy is hot right now. He had a 175 batting average going into the month of June, had a 558 OPS. In June so far, he's hitting 340, 404 on base, 640 slug. Has hit 4 home runs. He's got to sustain that for the rest of the year for me to even blink at this, because I just have not believed in Kevin Parada for a long time now. But prove me wrong. I would love it. I'm not rooting against the guy. I hope he proves me wrong. I hope he makes me look like an idiot for saying that this guy is like one of the worst prospects, or I would say one of the more overrated prospects in the Mets system. I wouldn't say worst, but overrated for sure. Hey, maybe he actually has some value left in there. Maybe he does find his way to being the above average hitting catcher he was supposed to be when the Mets drafted him in the first round. But I'm still not holding out any hope. But I'll acknowledge it. The guy's been pretty good. That's going to be all, though, for today's show. I appreciate all of you for tuning in. Make sure you follow, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. If you want to be a Locked On Mets insider, find the link in the episode description or go to subtext.com/LockedOnMets. Thank you for making Locked On Mets your first listen, your first watch every day. Now for your second watch, head over to YouTube and check out the first ever 24/7 streaming channel that covers everything in the world of sports. Talking about Locked On Sports Today with our local hosts from each team, league-wide hosts from each league. Find Locked On Sports Today streaming 24/7 on YouTube.